What's up, Fantasy Nation? Fantasy umpire Danny Kitchen here. Appreciate you guys joining me for all these previews. Like I said in the last couple of videos, we're going to take this division by division. Today, we are looking at the AFC South. This is an interesting division. We have the Texans, the Colts, the Jags, we've got the Titans, some offenses that I want no part of, a few offenses that have some hidden gems, in my opinion. We're going to start with the Houston Texans just because they had the most changeover in terms of their coaching staff. And, they bring in the new head coach, veteran Lovie Smith, new offensive coordinator and Pep Hamilton, couple of key draft picks, bringing in Dameon Pierce, the star running back of the preseason. Not really sure what this offense is going to look like, but for fantasy purposes, let's just take a look at Pep Hamilton's past and see if we can kind of draw any conclusions to how we think they may run things in Houston this year. Pep Hamilton was with the Colts from 2013 to 2015. Of course, that was the time that Andrew Luck was under center. So take everything with a grain of salt because, as we know, Davis Mills is not Andrew Luck. So the talent discrepancy there allows for maybe some change or potential change under Pep Hamilton's system. But while Luck was there in Indianapolis when he was the OC, they finished second and fourth in terms of quarterback points. So he got the most out of his QB there. Andrew Luck, again, is a different animal. He was a fantasy star. Davis Mills is kind of middle of the pack QB2 right now, unless he takes a giant leap this season. So I don't think we can bank on that. Of course, though, that does add to his upside. If you're in a deeper league, two QB league, a league that gives 8 points per touchdown, stuff like that, Davis Mills might be interesting to you, but for me, I'm staying away there. But yeah, under his system with the Colts, they threw the ball more than 60% of the time. I'm expecting that to come back crashing down to closer to 50, who knows, even 40%. But they may have to play catch-up mode with the way their defense is, so that could add to Davis Mills' fantasy production, therefore heightening his ceiling. So we'll see. A lot to be, uncovered. I think in the first couple of weeks we'll know a lot more about Pep Hamilton's offense, but he certainly has a nice track record. While he was with the Colts, the running backs didn't really find a lot of success under Pep's system. Just one finished better than 23rd in terms of fantasy points at the position. And then his wide receiver group only produced one top 12 finish. That was T.Y. Hilton back in 2014. So again, just a different kind of offense. I think Pep's going to have to adjust. But fantasy managers need to adjust their expectations as well, especially if you're drafting guys like Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks to an extent, but I still think he has some standalone value as the true wide receiver one there in Houston. But for me, the one guy that I want to talk about is Dameon Pierce. Nico Collins is kind of a fun late round flyer. Brandon Cooks is a safer mid-round wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 bet. But Dameon Pierce has been lighting it up in the preseason. He looks really, really good. Not sure if he's going to catch a lot of balls as long as Rex Burkhead is still in town, but cutting Marlon Mack certainly opens the door and paves the way for Dameon Pierce to lead this team in touches and goal line carries. And so I think he does become a very interesting middle of the pack RB2 if you can get him in the later rounds there in your home leagues. Some of these high stakes drafts are catching up, and he's starting to go in the top 20 to 25 in running backs. I've seen him go as early as RB18, RB17 recently. So you may need to pay a steep price, but he could be well worth it. He looks really good, and I love rookie running backs, fresh legs, kind of the unknown upside there. So love that. And then for the Texans week 1 opponent, they're going to play the Colts at home. So really tough test right out of the gate. I think the Colts win, but I think the Texans are going to be competitive this year. I think they're going to lose quite a bit, but it's going to be losing down the wire because Davis Mills can't quite get them over the hump. And that defense, I don't think they're going to be able to stop many offenses. So, says less about the coaching staff, more about the players they have in town. But they do have some sneaky stars, some sneaky sleepers in terms of fantasy production this year. But no one that I'm really targeting outside of Pierce right now. Moving right along, we have the Indianapolis Colts. They are my favorite to win the division. I think they're going to make a deep playoff run. We may see them play the Bills in the AFC Championship game. That's about as far as I think they go, but that's also how good I think they can be with that quarterback upgrade. That's the key there. They went from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. That's a night and day difference. I saw some people trying to justify or explain why Carson Wentz or why Matt Ryan wasn't that much better than Carson Wentz. Let me give you a couple of stats that say otherwise. Starting with Michael Pittman, he is going to take a huge leap this year. He's a top 10 fantasy wide receiver for me. I am targeting him in every draft. If I can get him in the third round, great. I would gladly jump up to the end of the second round to grab him. If he somehow slips to the end of the third, early fourth, that's a slam dunk pick for me. He more than doubled his targets, receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns last year, and commanded an elite 25.7% target share. Caught an impressive 85% of his contested targets, so he's getting all the jump balls, contested catches, he's winning those, and he also ranked number 3 versus man coverage in 2021. So great stats. We're seeing him advance his career, take that next step. But again, his quarterback was Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz was 29th in accuracy last year. 22% of Pittman's targets weren't even catchable. Now he gets Matt Ryan. So like I said before, huge quarterback upgrade. Here are the stats to prove it. Matt Ryan was 8th in accuracy. Again, Carson Wentz 29th, Matty Ice 8th. But not only that, Matt Ryan was better than Carson Wentz in many categories. True completion percentage, pressured completion percentage, play action completion percentage versus man, completion percentage versus zone. Basically in every category, Matt Ryan was better than Carson Wentz and better by quite a bit. There's a huge gap between the two of them in just about every category, in any relevant stat, fantasy or otherwise. So huge upgrade. Jonathan Taylor, while I do think he is worthy of the number 1 pick, I would lean CMC. I think Christian McCaffrey's usage is going to be out of this world. He's my pick for comeback player of the year if Saquon Barkley doesn't win it. JT, he's the best pure fantasy talent out there, in my opinion, in terms of all the running backs. But Nyheim Hines is still there. There have been reports in camp that the Colts want to feature Hines at times, and he's going to be their passing down back. While JT can handle the full workload, I don't think they're going to give it to him because, again, these guys are Super Bowl contenders. Whether or not you want to believe it, they are. They could get, in my opinion, they could get all the way to the AFC Championship game. I don't see them beating the Bills, but they could. They could get there. If that defense takes the next step and becomes elite, this offense is certainly going to improve. I can guarantee you that. So, to me, the sky's the limit for the Colts. They're going to win this division. I think they go far in the playoffs. They make a little run. And Michael Pittman is going to be a fantasy stud. I also like Paris Campbell. I think, he's probably going in the 12th round or even later, maybe even 14th, 15th, 16th round right now. He's a great late round flyer. I would target him. I think, it may take an injury. It sounds like Alec Pierce is still right up there with Paris Campbell. They're going to be fighting for targets all season in that offense, but I prefer Campbell. His metrics coming out of college were insane out of Ohio State. He obviously had that really fast 40 time that kind of propelled him into the first round of the draft. Everything's there. He's going to produce. He just needs to stay healthy. Matt Ryan's a great quarterback for him. They complement each other well. I think he'll be involved in the screen game. I think he'll be involved in crossing routes. They're going to try to hit him deep with his speed. Love what I see out of Paris Campbell. And then moving on to a less exciting, but in my opinion, one of the teams that could take a very big leap from last year to this year offensively, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're done with Urban Meyer, one of the worst NFL coaching seasons, NFL coaches period of all time. Just a terrible hire. The writing was on the wall from the get-go with this guy. He was just not a leader. He was not traveling with the team when he should have been. He was constantly in the headlines for negative reasons. Guy didn't even seem like he wanted to be there. He was just collecting a paycheck and heading home. So thank God the Jags are done with Urban Meyer. He just seems like a bad dude too. He just got a bad vibe from him. I feel for the front office, anyone that really had to work with him, any of the players. Seems like that was a pretty chaotic season for Jacksonville. So they take care of that. They bring in Doug Peterson, Mr. Stabilizer. This team will be very steady. They're going to be in games. They will not be getting blown out. I promise you that. Bring in offensive coordinator Press Taylor. This team, this offense is going to look very different. Travis Etienne is back from the foot injury, so they get their star. Basically, he's a star rookie running back, second year, but he missed the entire redshirt the first year. So let's see what he can do. They bring in Christian Kirk from the Arizona Cardinals. They let Laviska Shenault go to the Carolina Panthers in a trade. They let DJ Shark go to Detroit. So this offense is going to look different. We got some new guys there. We're going to see Trevor Lawrence, what he's actually capable of. We're going to see him take that big second-year leap. We can't even call that a rookie season for him. That was not on him. He was surrounded by clowns last year. So call it like we see it. Etienne was the star of camp. He was also the clear 3-down running back in every preseason game. Obviously James Robinson's still coming back from his injury. He's progressing well, but Etienne looks like the guy right now. Not only that, but his quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, he led the NFL in check down rate last year again. Offense is going to look different, but he does like to check down. This is his guy from Clemson. These two are going to be connecting from day one. Travis Etienne is one of my top 5 fantasy targets this year. He's right up there with Pittman, Cortland Sutton, Saquon Barkley, Kamara. He is one of my top targets. If you can get him in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, smash pick. I like him over all the tight ends that are going in that kind of range. I prefer him to quite a few of the other running backs that are going before him. So to me, his upside is Alvin Kamara in this offense. So he could finish as a top 10 running back. And I think next season when we're drafting, Etienne will be a first-round draft pick. That's how good I think he can be. And I don't think James Robinson's really going to get in the way of his touches. I think Etienne is going to be a focal point of this offense. They're going to put him out wide in the slot. They're going to, he can catch balls. They're not going to be using him in the backfield all the time. So super dynamic. Laviska Shenault going to Carolina says a lot about the way they want to use Etienne, I think, in my opinion. He's going to now be that slot guy, kind of gadget player, but he's also going to get a lot of touches in the backfield. And who knows with James Robinson's injury, if he were to miss time or get re-injured, Travis Etienne is an RB1, without a doubt. Set it and forget it. With top 5, potentially top 3 upside, he could be RB1 if James Robinson misses significant time this year. So love everything about this team. Press Taylor, first time OC in the NFL. He's not going to call the plays, though. It's going to be Doug Peterson's team. He's going to call the shots. So nothing to really worry about there in terms of Press Taylor's inexperience. Doug Peterson, when he was with the Eagles, we remember that team, right? They threw the ball around 60% of the time. Carson Wentz had a pair of top 10 finishes at the position, including QB5 in 2017. It could have been even higher if he didn't get injured. So you're getting that kind of production out of Carson Wentz. I think Trevor Lawrence can match that and maybe even beat it. So he is a top sleeper pick for me at the QB position. If you wait and you take a guy like Trey Lance, that kind of upside, or you wait and take a guy like Justin Fields and his upside, to me, Trevor Lawrence is more of a safe pick. QB2, but he's a safe pick that could finish in the top 15 of the position. Just the way this offense is structured, he's going to spread it around. He's got legs too. He can run. So he's kind of like Daniel Jones. Don't let him fool you. He can beat you with his feet. And Doug Peterson's going to dial up some fun plays for him, especially in the red zone. Yeah, I mean, to me, I like the Jags. I wouldn't get too overhyped about the rest of the team. I think, like I said, I'm targeting ETN, maybe Christian Kirk coming over from Arizona. He's had a connection with Trevor Lawrence in the preseason, but again, temper expectations. Kirk's coming from an offense in Arizona where he had Kyler Murray throwing him the deep ball, and now he's got Trevor Lawrence. Slight downgrade there, in my opinion, but it depends how he's used. Is he going to be their slot guy out wide? Seems like they're going to have him out wide, and he should be a target monster, but I don't think he's going to be quite as efficient as he was in Arizona. So, and then finally for the Jags, just looking at the running back position and Peterson's influence there. He was with the Eagles. He spent some time with Kansas City. With KC, he had a couple of nice seasons, at least for the running backs, a couple of top 20 finishes there. But keep in mind that was with Jamal Charles as the lead back. So, I think he finished top 7 a couple of seasons. So I don't think ETN is going to produce to that level, but I do think a top 10 return for ETN at the position is definitely within the range of outcomes. So. He had a couple of nice seasons with Kansas City, and then in Philadelphia, he had that one top 15 finish for Miles Sanders back in, I believe it was 2019. And so I think that's probably along the lines of what we're looking for out of ETN. Anything from a top 10 to top 15 finish would be, a best case scenario, I guess. Although I certainly think he has the talent to produce top 5 running back numbers if James Robinson were to miss any time there. So, this is an offense I want to invest in. I think that they're on the upward trajectory, and, we can jump right in. I feel like that's a perfect jump into our perfect segment, jump into our next team, which is the Tennessee Titans, and they are certainly heading in the opposite direction. We don't really need to touch on this roster too much here. I think Derrick Henry's the one guy we can all agree is a first-round draft pick. I probably won't touch him in the first round unless he drops to pick 10, 11, 12, and then maybe even later than that, because there are some guys at the back end of the first round that I would prioritize over him, someone like Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara. I just think this team struggles. A.J. Brown's out of town. They trade him to Philadelphia. They draft Treylon Burks, the star wide receiver out of Arkansas. They're promising a huge workload for him. Big plans for Burks. I don't see it in the preseason. I don't like what I see. Maybe he is following in the footsteps of a Jamar Chase and just breaks out in the regular season, just has a rough training camp in preseason. But for me, I don't see it. And Robert Woods is there. He's going to command a decent target share. We all know that he is just an incredible talent that just hasn't really seen the volume or didn't see it in LA to produce the consistent wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 numbers. So, he's a very good talent. I think he is the guy in Tennessee. Burks is more of a dynasty play next season and beyond. I think he's going to be their guy. But yeah, Derrick Henry, sure, if he falls into the second round, smash. Towards the end of the first round, I have no problem with it. But to me, he doesn't have the upside of a Saquon or a Kamara. Some of these guys that maybe are coming off of an injury-riddled season. And I don't see it. I don't see it happening for this offense. Not a lot of change in terms of coaching staff and play calling. I think they're still going to run the ball, and they're going to be competitive. They're going to be in ball games. But I think at some point we see Malik Willis. I think Ryan Tannehill has already peaked. I think we're seeing him in the back nine. I think this is going to be Malik Willis's team in the second half of the season, maybe even sooner if this team starts to lose a handful of early games down the stretch, in the fourth quarter. Because again, I think they're going to be competitive, but if they start to lose those close games, I think that bodes well for Malik Willis and this front office. At some point, they're going to have to realize we are not contending for a Super Bowl. I think they still think they are. I think they're not even a top 10 AFC team, but same coaching staff, same offense. They still have Derrick Henry. He's healthy. They're going to run the ball. They're going to be competitive, but I don't think Ryan Tannehill is going to win them games without A.J. Brown. And that does it for the AFC South. So, a fun division. I'm targeting a lot of Colts. I think the Jags are going to be interesting and fun. I think the Texans are going to, have a couple of fantasy sleepers that are relevant come the end of the year. But again, this is not really a division that I'm focusing on in fantasy, at least not too much outside of the Colts. So, but up next, we have the AFC West. All 4 of those teams are relevant. All 4 of those teams are going to produce star wide receivers, running backs, just extremely electric offenses. We're probably going to see 50 to 60 points in every divisional game for all these teams. They're just, and it's not really to say their defenses are bad. Their defenses are pretty good, especially the Chargers. But their offenses are just loaded.